time for a new era of European-African partnership. African-European COVID-19 recovery. African-European green transition. The first Africa Roundtable 2021 by the Global Perspectives Initiative.
Africa is an emerging geopolitical player of increasing relevance. The corona crisis has shown us that we are strong only when we act globally and stand together.
But we can tackle those issues by A, focusing on purpose and impact, and B, by bringing together stakeholders from private sector, public sector and civil society. And the African Roundtable is just a perfect format for that, for this mission.
The Africa Roundtable by the Global Perspectives Initiative.
Meine Damen und Herren, die Pandemie wütet über alle Grenzen hinweg. Und doch hat sie unser aller Blick verengt. Es wird jetzt darauf ankommen, dass es uns rasch gelingt, unseren Blick wieder zu weiten, auch unsere Nachbarn wieder in den Blick zu nehmen.
It is a multi-layered crisis, ranging from a health pandemic, obviously, to a hunger pandemic, to a pandemic of potential violence, to a pandemic of inequality, all in the context of a pandemic of increased authoritarianism and nationalism globally and regionally.
So I believe that if, as soon as we understand how much our destinies are interlinked, the sooner we will be able to find common solutions to common problems.
Trade can really be and will be instrumental in trying to get access to medical products, therapeutics, diagnostics, and vaccines to people on the continent. And as we urge countries to share immediately the excess vaccine doses they have.
The African Continental Free Trade Area will be a very, very important prerequisite. Many of the 54 states now are too small to invest, not just because of population, but also for purchasing power.
Africa must no longer be just our supplier of raw materials. We need African countries as partners in ambitious technology projects. We need African countries as partners in the energy transition.
Energy has a significant role to play for social protection. And it is a good question because the transition, the green energy or green growth transition, will cause adjustments in communities, in societies, and there will be trade-offs. This is why we are emphasizing now energy as the enabler of all the sustainable development goals.
There is certainly a huge potential for production of renewable energy on the African continent. But as we have already discussed, there's also a huge need for that energy on the African continent. So I would say if our colleagues from the African Union want to share some of that energy with the European Union, then that's great. But then we also have to pay a fair price. We have to make sure that we're not ending up in a sort of neo-colonial structure where we're taking away all the energy that's being produced. We need to make sure that the value actually stays on the ground.
There is no way that Germany or any other country can parachute development to Africa. And so take responsibility is my number one speech normally to the leaders on the continent.
For countries to realize that they have to tap better their internal savings. For instance, most of them have realized that they have pension funds with very large amounts that are unproductively used. And instead of just discussing debt, discussing external input into the economy, which is also extremely important, governments have to ramp up the possibilities of themselves getting more resources internally.
Il convient en outre de soutenir la relance de l'économie par des mesures fortes et innovantes incluant notamment plus de flexibilité des règles de plafonnement de l'endettement et du seuil de déficit budgétaire pour les pays en développement. Plus de facilité pour l'accès au crédit à des conditions compatibles avec les énormes besoins d'investissement dans des infrastructures lourdes pour des pays en quête d'émergence. Plus de transparence et de justice dans la perception du risque d'investissement en Afrique et la notation des économies africaines.
One major problem for our recovery is our ability to borrow cheaply. Many African countries cannot borrow, and those who can borrow pay huge premium, huge interest rates. This is not the situation in Europe, etc., or in America. You guys, you can borrow as much money as you want with a very low interest, no problem. Then SDR comes, and you don't need SDRs. You have so much liquidity. European Union giving you $750 billion. Why don't you lend your SDRs to African countries so they can borrow cheap money? It doesn't cost you any money. It doesn't cost you anything, but enable African countries to borrow cheaply, because the interest payments are crippling the economies of African countries.
We simply cannot afford in our own interest to leave Africa out of the fight against the economic consequences of the pandemic. It is right, and therefore it is right to think about debt relief and financing issues.
Trying to work on the issue of technology transfer and know-how. And as you know, there's a very, very big debate going on now at the WTO on the issue of waiver of intellectual property rights so that countries can have access to this for manufacture of vaccines. That's ongoing now, even as we speak. Today, that debate is going on. I hope we will come to a very pragmatic solution on the issue of IP, but also on transfer of technology.
I think it's crucial that the country teams work closer together, especially coordinated by the World Bank and the African Development Bank on the ground. We see too many agencies, too many G20 countries doing work, but not really in coordination.
There is no contradiction between addressing the developmental issues and the climate resilience. On the contrary, climate or green technologies can also contribute in job creation.
Empowering local actors such as cities. Safeguarding and restoring natural ecosystems and transforming land use to protect soils, biodiversity and water resources is vital, both for the resilience of people and for ecosystems in a changing climate.
For me, it is very important that we have a clear focus here on meeting the needs of women and girls, because without women and girls, we will not have any development.
Women's voices need to be prioritized in different levels of decision making. It's really important that they are represented in bodies that now take decisions about measures, how to prepare for a next pandemic. So it is very important to ensure that they are very well represented here. And again, one of the most important points is ensure access to digital technology.
At the end of the day, there is light at the end of the tunnel, and despite this very serious crisis, our continent is still doing great and has demonstrated lots of the solidarity, but also novel approaches in the face of this serious crisis.
Ja, die Pandemie und ihre Folgen werden uns noch geraume Zeit beschäftigen, noch viel Leid verursachen. Ich bin aber zuversichtlich, dass wir sie überwinden können und überwinden werden.
The young people with all this energy, give them access to the world's knowledge, give them access to the world's potential, and Africa will leave everybody stunned by what it can achieve in the next generation.
We thank our partners for supporting this innovative forum. The Africa Roundtable by the Global Perspectives Initiative.